Hello, this is Mr. Hatton. Today what we're going to work with is some PowerPoint basics in creating a presentation. And so with this video, what we're going to look at, this is the new slide screen. So if you'd already had PowerPoint up and running, you're adding a new presentation, this would be the screen. It may be slightly different depending on which version you're running and as far as which options are available. But you should see an option to start a blank presentation or to start using one of the templates. And so for this video, we're going to actually use one of the templates, and so we'll just pick, let's see, we'll go with the Berlin option, and so you can see that it creates our new presentation, and it gives us a preset background that looks nice. And what we'll actually see is that when we add new slides, it's going to give all of them the same theme. So they're not exactly the same, but it gives them the same theme that when we create those, so that it gives it a coherent and flowing feel to it. And so a reminder, if you don't know already, is that when we're adding new slides to our presentation, when we click just the new slide option, it's automatically gives us the title and content slide, just where it gives us a placeholder for the title and a placeholder for us to add the content. Each of these options are ways that we can add content like pictures, smart art, charts, a video, a website, a table, but we can add things and it will fit those to that text box area. And so if we use the default just by clicking, it's going to add title and content. That's set as the default slide. If we click the drop down option, it will give us different layouts that we can use. And so let's see, we might use a picture with a caption, so we can add that in there if that would work. We can then add our picture here. The caption on the side has got your preset options already. If we decide that, you know what, that's not really what I want, or I don't like the way that that's looking, we can go ahead and we can change the layout without having to delete the whole slide and edit it. So let's just go and add some information. All I did to insert information in the text box was click and then start typing. Sample slide, heading, and then let's go ahead and add some. This is where we would put our caption. So then now let's go ahead and change the layout to title and content. And so you can see that it went back to that and it saved as much of the information as it could. So it will save your data. It may not be exactly where you wanted it because you may not have wanted this to be in a bullet point, but it tried to save the text that we had there. And so you can switch between layouts without having to delete it and start over again. That could save you time in the long run. And speaking of saving time, another option that we have when you're just starting out and just creating your first presentation is that when we want to add new slides, sometimes you'll want them to, well, you'll always want them to look consistent. So sometimes that might mean having the same headings or the same exact information, or if you have, let's say, like a picture up on one side and you wanted to use that exact slide again and just change the information slightly, what we could actually do is click on New Slide, and we could say duplicate selected slides. And so we click that, and because I had slide 3 selected, it has now created, you can't tell a difference because I'm moving between them, they're exactly the same. But it gives us another slide of exactly the same. Then all you would have to do would then be change the information. And we can see that it makes that change for us where we go there. And so now, sorry, it didn't make a change, but it kept our headings the same so that we could have that the same. So if we wanted to have that picture, we could just duplicate it. Another option is to just right-click and duplicate the slide, and it adds it there as well. It's doing the same thing. If we want, we can also delete slides from this frame if we realize we added an extra one, or if you're just trying to thin out your presentation, we can just right-click and say delete slide. And so now what we're going to do is I want to look at some basics of when we're adding some information. So I'm just clicking back up to the second slide that we added, and that's just a title and content. So we're going to title this one because what we're going to work on this slide is bullet points. And then we're going to see some different options that we have with bullet points. So in the title and content, it automatically sets you up with bullet points. If you accidentally deleted them and your bullet points were gone, you can add that just by clicking this option here in the paragraph menu. It's the same way it works in Microsoft Word, if you're familiar with that. So we click the bullet point and it creates it there. We can add our sample text again, point 1, point 2, point 3. All I'm doing is typing. When I press enter at the end of the line, it adds a new bullet point. It won't actually show up if I don't type any information there, so we can see it's sort of grayed out. But if we decided we were done with our list, we can just press backspace and get rid of that bullet point. If we realize, oh, I do want to add one more, just click at the end of your last bullet point, press enter, and it will add your new points in there. So you can also do what's called indent our bullet points. And so if we wanted to indent our bullet points, so like let's say that we decided that we want a subpoint to go under each one. So we can press enter, and then I can press tab, and it moves the bullet point over. And we're going to call this subpoint A. And then when I press enter at the end of subpoint A, it moves us down to the line, and they're lined up together with the previous point. And so you can see that the font of both the bullet and the text is smaller in our subpoints. It's designed to give you like an outline view or to help keep that organized. So you might use this for like if you were going to do a table of contents, or if you're showing some kind of organizational structure and you wanted to order those points. And so we can add points, subpoint B. If you decided, you know what, that I want to move this one, and so we call these points subordinate points that are underneath. If we wanted to make a subordinate point back out to a main point, wanted to move it up a level or promote it, what we can do is click in front of it. I'm holding the shift key and pressing tab, and it moves that content back to this main line. So up in the main point, if you decide that now you want to move it forward, after we've already got the point typed, just press tab, and it moves it to a subordinate point. We can move it even further to make this a point that goes underneath subpoint A. Shift tab to move it back a level. So the way that we lay out our information can be very important in the way that we make our information viewable. The purpose of a PowerPoint is not to put every single word that you want to say in a presentation. A good PowerPoint presentation is really going to have just your main points. That's going to be a reminder to your viewers. It may be a reminder to the speaker, but it should not have every word. You shouldn't just be standing and reading it. So you want to keep your number of bullet points to a minimum. Probably a 5 or 6 is ideal, with no more than probably 5 or 6 words per slide or per bullet point. You really want to make sure that you keep these concise, and it would be better if you really have to get more information. It would be better and more appealing to actually add more slides and just space your information out rather than try to put full blocks of text onto a slide. And so as we're going through with just getting started with what may be your first PowerPoint presentation, we can look at our different views and the different ways we can see it. We are in the normal view right now, where we've got the outline on the side and our main section, our main stage right here. If we go to our slide sorter view, that gives us all of our slides in an order, sort of like panes in like a comic book or a layout. We can rearrange them just by clicking and dragging. All I'm doing is clicking and dragging. You see they move very fluidly to where we can put them in, make sure that we're getting them in the perfect order. We can also use what's called the reading view down at the bottom, where this just gives us one slide at a time to where we can see what's on that slide. I'm using the arrow keys to navigate between the points. When I get to the last point, it goes to end, and I just press the arrow again, and it allows me to exit. Another type of view that we have not looked at yet is what we would call the notes view, though. So we're going to click View and say Notes Pages. And so what we can see here is that it actually gives us, this would be something that you could print if you were going to have like a speaker note, if you're going to have some notes in front of you, to where it would give you this colored section is the area that's actually going to show up in your presentation. But then down here in this section, this is where you might put reminders like make sure to emphasize point 1 and the costs associated. Or whatever your information might be. This is just a sample, but whatever your information might be, you can put speaker notes here. These will not show up in your actual presentation. Only if you were to look at the notes view, or if you were in presenter mode, you could actually have those options available to you as well. So now I'm going to go back to the normal view, which just gives us our thumbnail view, or thumbnail views, which is the small picture of the slides that's going to go in the outline along the sides. And if you remember, we added notes to that first slide, and so where those show up, if we were just looking at this, we could also enter new notes from here, is now when we just click the notes option, that should appear here, and we can add additional notes. We can customize this. If we move the mouse pointer to where it gives us this arrow with the 2 directions, we can actually make our notes section bigger. I'm just dragging it up, and it's giving us a bigger note section so that we can see all that we've added to our notes. One thing that's also going to be important to make sure that you're saving money on printing is if you do need to print a slide, there are several options that we have that we need to understand what the difference is and how to use them. And so I'm going to go to what's called the Backstage view by clicking on File. And if we were going to print this presentation, I'm just going to click the print option here. It's not going to actually print yet. And you see we have some different options here. One is that this first, do we want to print all of the slides? We can tell it to print only the current slide, a custom range, like if we wanted to say, you know what, I only wanted to print slides 2 and 3. Or if we said that we only wanted to print slide 1, we can customize that. Or we can tell it to print full page slides. So our range is going to be here. We tell it to print all slides. And then we can also have our options for, do we want it to put just one slide on one sheet of paper? If you're doing a long presentation, you really probably don't want to use that much paper and ink on printing off every slide, especially if you have a color. Most of your background colors are not going to actually print in color unless you tell it to do so. But if we wanted to print full page slides, that is the default that's set up. If we click this drop-down option, we see some different ways that we can print them. First is the notes page. So if you remember that previous example that we saw where it gave us the slide at the top and then the notes at the bottom, we can print it to where it will print those notes for you so that you could have that. We could also choose to print an outline view, which is just going to print the text. It's not going to print all of the squares. It's just going to give you the text from your document so that you could work through that. And then you also have a choice for how many slides and whether you want them to be arranged horizontally or vertically. So you can go up to 9 slides on a page. Just be careful with that because it does start to get hard to see if you're using more than 6 slides on a page. And so just be sure that either you can read it or whoever your audience is that you might be giving these slides to, make sure that it's readable and that it's understandable. Otherwise, it's going to be sort of a waste of time and money to print these slides out. So we could choose that we wanted to print 4 vertical or 4 horizontal. To where they'll go on the page, to where we can save time and space. And then other than that, it's your same options that you would have if you were working in Microsoft Word or any other program that you can print on one side or both, depending on what your printer or copier is able to do. And then your other just standard print options. But just make sure that the difference in PowerPoint that's going to be different from most other programs is just the number of slides that you print per page, or if you wanted to actually print the notes page along with it. If we decide that you don't want to print, we can go back out of that to get out of the backstage view by just clicking this arrow, and it will take us back to our document. And the last thing that I want to show you in this video, and this is something that can be changed in the beginning or the end or really at any point within your presentation, but is how to add a theme. So if you remember that when we started this document, we picked a template that we were going to use that had the preset, this bar that goes across, the colors with the gradient background color. And so all that looks great, but if we wanted to change that without actually changing the template, we can actually change the theme as well. And so we're going to go to the Design tab. And you can see that we can change either the template and the theme as a whole. Notice that when I'm moving my mouse over top of them, it's giving me a preview, but it's not actually making the changes unless I click on it. But then there's also, within using the same template, what we call different variants, where it's going to give us different color options to where it keeps the layout the same, but then we can choose the colors, or we can even customize our color schemes. If you wanted it to fit your favorite school colors, we can pick a different option. We can see that now once I click it, it does make the change. It just gives us the preview until then. And if we wanted to change the colors themselves, we didn't want to pick from a preset, we could go to the colors option, customize the colors, and then we could actually go in and set each color for a standard of what color do we want it to be. And so that gives us a lot of options to customize. If you're giving a presentation in a business, especially if it's going to be an area where they've seen lots of presentations like in a school, changing the variant can actually give your presentation a different feel, because if someone's used to seeing a lot of PowerPoints, they have probably seen all of the themes that are up there, and they probably usually get left in that standard. So just changing the variant, it's only a couple clicks, but it can give your presentation a unique feel. It can feel fresh and not just look like, hey, well, look, this person recycled a template already that's going to be up there. So think about changing your color schemes to fit the theme of whatever it is you're going to be working with. So this has been just a basic introduction of how to get started, how to set a theme, how to work with bullet points, and then how to really just get started with creating your first PowerPoint presentation.